So, we are now halfway through the 2020s decade, the toughest years of my and most people's life, and 2025 is easily the worst year so far, and that is all I'm gonna say. But what I can say is that this is shaping up to possibly be the best decade for animation ever. 2020 had an obviously slow start, but 2021 came crashing in with a boatload of fantastic TV series and movies. 2022 is probably one of the top 3 years for animated movies. 2023 may have been a bit slow, but had some iconic highlights. And 2024 was such an influential and monumental year for animation, with entries from all around the globe more than ever. I plan to make a more formal list at the end of the decade, but as a milestone, I want to casually run through 20 of my absolute favorite animated movies of this decade so far, in no particular order. Because if there is a single thing I want anyone to take away from this video, it's that my highest recommendation out of anything here is The Colors Within, my favorite movie of 2024. I immediately bought the movie and rewatched it when it was released on digital, and it is still as good as I remember. It is probably the most fun I've ever had watching a movie, period, with the general tone being absolutely fluffy and colorful and low-key, while also funny and hype with a twinge of teen angst. The cinematography, score, and writing blend into a thoroughly engaging watch, coupled with one of the most wholesome character trios ever. And this easily wins as the best Christian movie of all time, and all it took was for it to be made by an actual filmmaker, more so the absolute GOAT Naoko Yamada. This is absolutely a must-watch for any cinephile, and I'm really putting this at the front of the video to prove that these are in no particular order, because this is my second favorite movie of the decade so far. But speaking of wholesome friendship stories that might have a bit of gay subtext depending on who you're talking to, even if Disney has not been able to catch a break this decade, its most dedicated artists somehow find their way to defy corporate greed and say what they truly want to say, and Luca is definitely one of those. One of my top 5 favorite Pixar films, period, as it fully runs with its slice of life atmosphere. The animation is crisp and vibrant, focusing less on realistic textures and movements and more on cartoony hijinks and stylistic colors, and the dialogue and chemistry between the characters as well as their personal plights regarding the sea monster prejudices is nothing short of masterful and impactful. And to keep you animation is cinema-ers watching to the end, I'm gonna sprinkle the American movies as far away from each other as possible. Probably. On that note, Ride Your Wave is another water-based story of relationships that in comparison is much more explicitly romantic. And I know this technically came out in 2019, but it had a multitude of international release dates in 2020 and then a streaming release in 2021. For the purposes of this video, any movie of that sort counts. Ride Your Wave follows a romantic relationship between a surfer and a firefighter, and that is all I am gonna say. I don't know why they revealed that in the trailers, but this movie is designed to go into blind. It's a truly beautiful tale starting with two people genuinely enjoying each other's company that eventually unfolds into a sometimes embarrassing and other times sad story concerning where that relationship goes, with wacky and loony animation and an admittedly WTF-inducing climax. And honestly, in the realm of anime couples, Hinako and Minato might be my favorite. Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop is another anime romance that won my heart in an instant when I first saw it. The colors and animation style pop out, the score is lovely, and the characters are just a bit different from your usual extrovert girl, introvert guy setup. Cherry may be your typical shy boy, but it's because he doesn't see a point in sharing his poems because he just likes keeping them to himself. Smile may look like the typical muse waifu setting him on the path to grow more confident, but she's more easygoing as well as facing her own insecurities over her appearance. The two are very lovely together, and this entire movie is just a summer vibe. Now, I have completely changed my mind about Her Blue Sky. I thought it was great in 21, but I have rewatched it multiple times in the past 2 years, and it honestly might be tied with Violet Evergarden as my favorite film of 2021 now. A beautiful story written by Mari Okada of Anohana and Maquia fame about two sisters Aoi and Akane navigating their anxieties over the future, as well as their feelings about their friend Shino and his teenage spirit. It's like if you made Lilo and Stitch a melodramatic coming-of-age tale of teen angst, and it captures that perfectly, with Aoi probably being the best out of the angsty, rebellious teen-type characters. This is also technically from 2019, but it was released physically in 2020 and 21, and released on Netflix in 24, so there you go. I also feel that I didn't give Marcel the Shell with Shoes On more credit. It is genuinely a masterpiece of cinema that's just a quiet reflection of life and human connection. To this day, I still can't believe that's Jenny Slate voicing the littlest of little guys. She earned that voice actor award at the Annies. My Father's Dragon. This is probably a lot of people's least favorite Cartoon Saloon entry, but I remember anticipating for this to be such when I first watched it, and then being absolutely floored by how charming and emotional it is. It has a pretty profound theme of how our frustrations over stressful situations manifest in lashing out at friends and family, and how exactly we can make up for those shortcomings. While it does show in some scenes that are slightly obnoxious, I personally think it enhances the morals of the story. That, coupled with the, as always, beautiful animation emulating a picture book, makes for a fantastic watch. Lonely Castle in the Mirror, a story of 7 kids who are able to go into a world inside their mirrors where they are tasked with finding a key and a room that is unlocked by said key. Whoever finds the key and unlocks that room first will be granted a wish, and everyone will lose their memories of the place. However, after a certain time frame, the castle will disappear anyway, but everyone will keep their memories. That is the basic setup of the story that sounds like it'll make for a cozy and pleasant watch, which for the most part it is. But it becomes a truly harrowing and gut-wrenching story when you throw in the wrench that every one of the kids on some level is suffering from bullying, harassment, abuse, and in one implied instance, possibly grooming. I'd argue this is the most emotional movie of 2024, as it is powerful as an allegory for an online group of individuals confiding in one another. This whole movie feels like a big warm hug, and it's inspiring to see someone as broken as Kokoro triumphantly come out the other end to help her friends through their struggles. And I guess we'll talk about Across the Spider-Verse. Yes, it's as great as everyone says it is. Yes, the action is absolutely phenomenal. Yes, it's yet another celebration of animation with a multitude of styles from cel shading to scrapbooking. Yes, it's a clever critique of the narrative of Spider-Man and preaches that you don't need to go through an obscene amount of suffering to be Spider-Man. Despite how much I do love this movie, I've kind of grown tired of talking about it because of the terrible behind the scenes. And it's part of why I'm glad Beyond will be released in 2027. Artists need a good work-life balance, and by extension, every other working-class citizen. As far as Sony animated movies of the decade go, Mitchell's vs. the Machines is my favorite easily. I initially gave it some grief with its anti-technology cliches, but now I'm able to see past that for what it truly is. It's a fun, creative, and wacky family comedy with one of the best families in animation, period. I love the 2D 3D scrapbook style animation, and I love almost all of the jokes. The Wild Robot. I'm not dedicating much time to this as I already talked about it in my 2024 video and said pretty much everything I wanted to say there. It bears repeating that the animation is absolutely stunning and gorgeous, and the story is such a bold turn for American animation, reminding me a lot of Maquia When the Promised Flower Blooms. Spy X Family Code White. The only movie I can think of where the main conflict revolves around whether or not a tiny little gremlin kid will go to the bathroom. The 3rd season of the show is confirmed to air in October, so if you've not watched this show yet, I highly recommend it. Basically, it's about a spy, an assassin, and a psychic kid forming a fake family, and hijinks ensue. While Pompo the Cinephile is still a masterpiece in my eyes with its endless funny comedy, stunning beauty, and immensely likable characters, I have a hard time saying if its philosophical bends over the film industry hold up, due to my own experiences and the current state of the industry. I guess the best way to put it is through 2 questions. Does my student experience make many moments hit harder in a way that's inspiring? Yes. Does the current state of the film industry make the overwhelming positivity of this movie feel like it's ignorantly waxing poetic? Also yes. It's a very choose what you want to take away movie, but that's not much to me because I choose to take away what will inspire me. Sound Euphonium Ensemble Contest. Technically, this doesn't count. It's an hour-long OVA for Sound Euphonium, one of my favorite series of all time that I've already dedicated a 40-minute video to, but in my eyes, this was one of the best things to come out in 2023. Yes, better than Spider-Verse. Bite me. While you could say this doesn't really have a plot and it's just a collection of moments, those moments hit especially hard if you're a longtime fan of Hibike. Tsubame and Hazuki practicing, any moment with Kumiko and Reina, Mizure opening the window, which I analyzed the heck out in my video. Again, this is another series you should watch immediately. And the watch order is look it up, I am not explaining it to you. Belle! One of the most beautiful movies I have ever seen. I remember seeing this in IMAX and being blown away by all of it. By far the single best interpretation of the classic Beauty and the Beast story, taking the motifs of Beauty and Beast to reflect how the internet glorifies and demonizes ordinary people regardless of the struggles they go through. And yet those same people connect and grow together because of those shared struggles, going as far as to help each other through them. This is easily Mamoru Hosoda's best work with some of his best animation and characters, and Suzu is a straight-up paragon for our modern age. I've talked about this multiple times already, so go watch any video I made where I talk about this in it. Nimona! Rescuing this movie is probably the best thing Netflix has ever done. I love this movie so freaking much, being my favorite of 2023. I love the storybook art style, the fantastic character work, and the hilarious bloody hijinks mixed with a devastating story. And Nimona herself is one of my favorite characters, and one of the best trans, or at least trans-implied, characters. And speaking of movies that were killed but revived through word of mouth, Coyote vs. Acme was just rescued by Ketchup Entertainment and is scheduled for next year, and I could not be happier about that. Look back. Oh, Fujimoto, when I get you, Fujimoto. I still can't exactly say half of what I want to say because of spoilers, so go ahead and watch my segment of it in my 2024 video, or watch Gigak's Best Anime of 2024 video for an admittedly much better piece on the movie than mine. In short, one of the best stories on the power of creativity and why we create art, which hits so much harder when you realize what day the original one-shot was published and what mindset Fujimoto was probably in when that happened. Both of the Violet Evergarden movies. Violet Evergarden is my #1 favorite TV show of all time. No other series has come within even a 1,000-mile radius of its level of sheer brilliance and how gorgeous it is. A story about a discharged soldier who has no concept of emotions or love or life. So naturally, she starts working as a scribe at a postal service, where your job is to literally read between the lines and interpret the emotions of others. And through many various odd jobs, Violet begins to discover so many parts of herself, feeling the crushing weight of all the lives she's taken on the battlefield, but also coming to terms with her humanity and realizing she is worthy of being alive, culminating in a beautiful season finale that celebrates the beauty of connection and undying love. Eternity in the Auto Memory Doll is basically a feature-length episode where Violet helps sisters Amy and Taylor sort out their feelings and grief over being separated. The story of the sisters is heartbreaking but reaches a beautiful conclusion, and Violet and Amy's chemistry is so immaculate that I honestly wish they ended up together. Unrelated, Violet Evergarden the movie serves as the finale for real of the franchise, and for its concept, it's surprisingly spectacular. While the twist can seem like it's walking back on certain aspects of the anime, not only do I think it enhances some of the themes, ultimately this movie is about Violet finally finding her happiness and getting the happy ending she's longed for so long. And under a new context after everything she's learned, it is bound to be a beautiful experience for her. And to close this video off, my absolute favorite movie from the 2020s is the untouchable masterpiece itself, Wolfwalkers. And I imagine it'll stay my favorite for the rest of the decade. As the years go by, it's become increasingly evident that this movie and its story are extremely relevant to the times. A friendship story between two girls in an English-occupied Ireland who can turn into wolves at night, that is layered with a multitude of themes. How industrialization destroys the beauty of nature, how voices of different experiences, especially those connected to nature and humanitarianism, are shut down in the face of religious nationalism and dictatorship, relationships, how cruel oppression manifests in cracks forming in the bonds we have with family and friends to get us to turn on each other, but also how powerful the exchange of language and experiences is, especially between different cultures, and how bright young spirits can unite their voices and rise up against the powers that be, with physical means if they're inclined to. Wolfwalkers is just a very loud call to action that inspires you to connect with the people around you and fight for what's right. On top of that, it's beautifully animated with gorgeous hand-drawn animation, the score is excellent, and the characters are all around fantastic, with Maeve being my favorite. If you've not watched it yet, somehow, it's on Apple TV+, go watch it. So those are my 20 favorite animated films of the 2020s so far. If you really want an order to these, then I guess Luca, Spider-Verse, Lonely Castle, Ride Your Wave, Wild Robot, Code White, Mitchell's, Ensemble Contest, My Father's Dragon, Marcel, Words Like Soda, Look Back, Pompo, Nimona, Her Blue Sky, Violet Evergarden, Belle, Evergarden Eternity, Colors Within, and Wolfwalkers. There you go. What are your favorites of the decade so far? And what are you looking forward to in the next coming years? Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thank you for watching, and catch you next time.